All right, so we're diving into a source that really goes for the biggest questions in life, but it starts with a huge paradox. See, this isn't an explainer that's going to give you a bunch of answers. Nope. It's more like a meditation on what's just beyond our reach, at the very edge of what we can even talk about. Right out of the gate, the source just hits you with this incredible line: this book should not exist. I mean, what a way to start, right? It's this bold, kind of baffling statement that perfectly sets the stage. And you have to ask, why? Well, because it's trying to use words to point at something that words just can't touch. It's basically a book about silence, written with language, a total paradox. And that central problem, using words to talk about what's beyond them, that leads us straight into our first section here, the failure of words. To even get started, we just have to admit that our main tool, language, has its limits. We're using something that's designed to separate and define things, to point at a reality that is, well, whole and completely indivisible. And here is the absolute heart of that problem. I mean, just think about it for a second. Every single word you use, chair, tree, me, you, it creates a division. It carves that one thing out from everything else. But what we're actually trying to explore here is the undivided background, the canvas where all those separate things even show up. We're stuck using a tool of separation to hint at a wholeness that has no opposite. It's tricky. So, because of that, the source gives us an invitation to approach this in a totally different way. Don't listen to this trying to collect facts or master a new concept. That's not the point. Instead, maybe you can treat this whole thing like a meditation. The real message, the real feeling, isn't in the words I'm saying, but in the silence around them, the quiet space they come from and go back to. So, what happens when we actually stop trying so hard to grasp for answers? What happens after all those typical spiritual questions? How do I find peace? Or what's my true self? What happens when they just dissolve? Well, the source says a totally different kind of question shows up. It's the one question that remains. And the shift between these two is just profound. You see, a seeker's questions usually come from this feeling of lack, right? Like something's missing and you need to find it. They demand an answer to fix a problem. But this final question, it comes from a place of fullness. It isn't trying to get you anywhere. It's just looking around and marveling at what's already here.
And this is it. This is the question. It's so simple. What is this? And it's not asking about your coffee cup or the device you're watching this on. It's asking about the whole show, the entire unbelievable, impossible fact that any of this exists at all. It's a question that's born from pure, unfiltered wonder, not confusion.
And this is where everything really flips on its head. This question, what is this? It's not meant to be answered. The whole idea is to stop treating not knowing as some kind of problem we need to solve. Instead, the invitation is, can we actually learn to live inside that not knowing? Can we make it our home? Just a natural place of total mystery and awe? Now, this central question, what is this? It's not just some vague philosophical idea. It actually echoes in the biggest unsolved mysteries that science and philosophy are still wrestling with today. Two of the big ones, consciousness and the very nature of time. Okay, but before we go any further, it's super important to get what the source means by mystery. It's not the same thing as ignorance. Ignorance is just a gap in your knowledge that, you can fill. Like if you don't know the capital of Mongolia, you can just look it up, problem solved. But a true mystery is different. A true mystery is something that the more you investigate it, the deeper and more mind-bending it becomes. And consciousness is the ultimate example of a true mystery. Science can map out every single neuron firing in your brain when you see the color red. They can tell you exactly what's happening physically, but they can't explain the actual subjective felt experience of redness. That inner feeling of being you, right here, right now. That's a mystery that science just can't seem to touch. And then you've got the mystery of time. We think of our lives as this neat little line, right? Moving from the past to the future. But when have you ever experienced anything that wasn't happening right now? Your memory of the past, it's a thought happening now. Your anticipation for the future, that's also happening now. It's only ever this present moment. Always. So from these huge mysteries of existence itself, the source brings us to the most personal, the most final unknown there is, death. And it doesn't offer any easy answers or comforting beliefs. Instead, it just encourages us to take an honest, unflinching look at the question itself. So, First question, what dies? The source is really direct about this. The body, yeah, that will end. The personality, all your quirks and habits that depend on your brain, that's going to end. All of your memories, your entire life story, that ends too. The whole structure of you as you've known it, it just dissolves.
Which, of course, leads to the next question. So what remains? If you aren't the body, and you aren't the personality or the memories, then what about the awareness that all of those things appeared in? Can that aware space itself die? And the source's honest answer is we just have no way of knowing.
And this brings us to this place of really deep humility, having the courage to stand right in front of this ultimate question and honestly, truly say, I do not know. Well, that isn't a failure. According to the source, it's a kind of liberation. It's a peaceful state, totally free from the burden of pretending you have all the answers.
Okay, so after all that, after exploring these vast cosmic questions, you might be wondering, how does any of this relate to my actual life? Well, this final section is all about that. It's about bringing this massive inquiry out of the clouds and right down into our day-to-day existence. It's about living the question, not just thinking about it. I just love how practical this gets. The source gives us these 3 really simple invitations. First, see your breakfast as a mystery. Your coffee, the toast, the morning light coming through the window. If you really look, it's all completely and utterly inexplicable. Second, view another person not as this separate, solid self, but as a portal into the very same awareness that you are. And third, approach your daily work not as a grind, but as a state of active wondering. And this really brings us home to the core takeaway of this entire explainer. The whole point was never to find some neat, tidy little answer to the question, what is this? The point was to let the question itself completely transform your way of being, to live inside the wonder of it all and let that feeling flavor every single moment of your life. And so we end right where we began, with the question that remains. A question that isn't a problem to be solved, but a door that just stays open, an inquiry that doesn't end but only gets deeper. What is this?